Planes, trains, and automobiles. We are getting ready to head to St. Pete. This is race number one on the IndyCar calendar, although for David, it's like his sixth event already in the calendar of 2026. Welcome to Unverified. Kyle Cuthbertson, David Land, Tony Donahue with you. It is officially race week when it comes to IndyCar heading down to the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the season, give some predictions, go team by team on how we feel. The field will fill out for the IndyCar season as well as the Indianapolis 500. We're going to talk about some of the support races. The trucks are going to go green for the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida on Sunday as well. David, you were in Phoenix last week. Let's start there. Interesting test. A lot to come out of it. Marcus Ericsson, Kyle Collette had some mishaps, let's just say. But overall, a week later, your takeaways from the Phoenix Open test 1 week ago.
Yeah, feels good. Good to be back in Phoenix. It was my first time at that track. It's actually, as much as an old fuddy-duddy as I am, I thought that the Phoenix facility was really beautiful. They've done a great job with their grandstands and the inside of the racetrack. And I wish there were a few less fences to walk around, but that's kind of the problem you run into at any ISC track. It's just kind of the way it goes. Daytona's kind of the same way. No, I mean, it felt good to be at an oval this early. I think that the teams and drivers seemed like they were in a good mood for the most part. And I think it's great to be back. So I'm looking forward to that race. I'm looking forward to seeing it in person. And, there's a lot of positive momentum. I think you might have mentioned it, Tony, already, but the ticket sales are looking good. So I think it's going to be, a wonderful weekend to be a racing fan, especially in Arizona, which really, if you think about it, has such a storied history with American open wheel racing. It's kind of weird that we haven't been there the last few years. So I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's a great market to be in. Phoenix is pretty cool, having spent a couple of days there. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great event, not to look past St. Pete, of course.
Any drivers that stood out for you? Kyle and I talked here a week ago about Will Power being at top of the boards for some of the day. Obviously, the Ed Carpenter racing cars look good, but anybody that you saw in person that you said, you know what, this person's got a chance, might have one of the best cars when we come back in a few weeks.
I don't know about best car, but I think Rinus VeeKay is going to really put some numbers up this season. I think he's an easy top 10 in the championship. He looked good at Sebring. He looked good at Phoenix. You've got to imagine he's going to look good at the Indy 500, considering how well Connor went in that car last year. So I would say if I'm picking a dark horse right now, it's probably Rinus. I think of a real contender that maybe people aren't talking about yet that maybe we should start talking about is Marcus Armstrong. And then obviously the usual suspects like Palou. David Malukas, I think, is going to be strong at Phoenix. We'll see if he can kind of be strong at places that aren't a short oval, right? But yeah, I think it's the usual suspects, add in Armstrong, and throw a couple of spoilers in there like VeeKay.
Let me ask you this too. I know it's been talked about, and I know you talked about it on your channel, but Honda coming back. There's a lot of rumors of already. I mean, I don't think it's been said enough, but we are getting ready to embark on a start of a season, but we're also getting ready to embark on one of the craziest free agency markets inside of IndyCar history, if you really think about it, because almost every team has at least one driver that's up for a new contract at season's end. There was obviously, now the rumors of where do those factory teams go. Shank Racing obviously looks like going to be the landing spot for the Honda side of that. But just your overall thoughts on one of the bigger news days that we've seen in IndyCar, knowing that the future of this sport has at least two engine manufacturers involved.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of put this to, I'm sure I said it a couple of times. I know I factually said it to a couple of people in the industry, is that, over the past 2 years, IndyCar, while we've all kind of talked about the third manufacturer and that has been beat to death, right? The main priority for IndyCar the last 2 years has been, 2+ years really, has been to keep two. Not necessarily go out and find a third. If a third came along and the process was easy, great. But the real task here over the last couple of years was to make sure that you have multiple engine manufacturers in this series, and that began with Chevrolet and Honda. And as we know, I mean, it's been talked to death. that the real kind of squeaky wheel was Honda. They had the most grievances. They, and kind of rightly so, I would say. I mean, if you look back on some of the things that they had problems with, I think they would be problems that I think we probably all had with the sport at one point or another. And to the credit of IndyCar, a lot of those, if not all of those items, were addressed. And so we get to a couple of weeks ago where it was formally announced. I mean, to be honest, towards the end of last year and really kind of from summer on, I had a suspicion this was the direction it was going. There came a point where, we're not getting any kind of a sense that there's any kind of farewell celebration being planned, right? It just kind of felt like business as usual. And the longer it went on, the more sure I was of that. And of course, we finally got that confirmation a couple of weeks ago. And, while I think that the sigh of relief wasn't as big as it might have been if they had announced this at the beginning of last year, because I think I mentioned it, right? It felt like we kind of expected this outcome. It would have been a bit of a surprise, actually, if Honda had decided to leave. And of course, that also would have meant that Chevrolet would have likely left as well. I think that we need to emphasize this point that what happened where Chevy and Honda re-signed, I think, is an incredibly important moment for the sport of IndyCar racing. Had Honda left and had Chevrolet and their hand most likely would have been forced, they most likely would have left. I know there was a comment made by Doug Bowles that said that Chevy would have supplied the entire field or was prepared to supply the entire field. I'm not sure if that was a misspeak. I have no doubt that Ilmor, the company that builds the Chevrolet engine, would have been prepared to supply the field, but I'm not sure if Chevy would have kept their marketing dollars behind it. And ultimately, that's, I'm a purist, right? It's important to me to have multiple engine manufacturers in this series, to have a competition, to have automotive competition. That is what the Indianapolis 500 IndyCar racing is built on. If we lost that, we would be in big trouble from a purity standpoint. But from a sport perspective, and I had mentioned this in my video, and I've mentioned it some other places, is that, yes, I mean, like, you look at both manufacturers, they spend a ton of money promoting the sport. Specifically in the case of Honda, they, in my opinion, and I've counted on broadcast before, they spend, for ad mentions, sponsored segments, advertisements on races. You're even seeing it now on the Olympic coverage where they're pretty prominently putting an IndyCar out in front of Joe Public. They spend a ton of money on this series. Had they left, that marketing spend would have left, and IndyCar would have had a massive hole that they simply would not have been able to easily fill. I would go even as far as to say the two engine suppliers are the biggest B2C, business to consumer sponsors in IndyCar racing. To lose one or both of them would have been an absolute disaster. And thank God we don't live in that timeline. I said this at the time too. Feels like now we've got a great opportunity in IndyCar for everybody to pull together, push together, and move forward. Because let's be honest, this was a dark cloud hanging over this sport for the last 2.5 years. And the fact that cloud has now moved on, I think is fantastic news.
Speaking of moving on, status quo, we got the news over the last 24, 48 hours of kind of what this council is going to look like when it comes to the independent sanctioning body. And we thought there was going to be changes. There were new people brought in. But when it comes to the meat and bones of it, so to speak, David, pretty much looks the exact same as what it always has. So your thoughts when we got the news yesterday of what that's going to look like. Obviously, Rocket, who has been in charge of tech, is back. He was obviously kind of in the middle of that probe, in the middle of the investigation, not only into the push to pass gate at St. Pete 2 years ago, but also the Indianapolis 500 qualifying with Penske and the attenuator last year. Your thoughts on this? There was a lot of fans that I think kind of looked at this as like, wait a minute, you put a lot of effort into making this independent body, and yet the people that are basically still in charge seem to be the people that have always been in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the biggest surprise in the world, especially considering how late these announcements came. Kind of to the previous point I made, like the fact that there was no real movement. I mean, how late we got the Independent Sporting Council in the first place, I feel like was a bit of an indicator of where this was going to go. Um, I suppose the one thing I would say would be maybe this is like you're on your last strike for everybody, right? If something goes poorly or if something's mishandled, maybe the Independent Sporting Council steps in and makes a change. Um, I wouldn't say I'm surprised to see a lot of the familiar faces involved, but I'm also not like, yeah, I don't think it's that surprising. I'll put it that way, especially considering some of the moves IndyCar has made recently, and also Team Penske has made recently. Not a surprise.
Big weekend coming up. IndyCar down in the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida, to kick off the season. There was a comment in the chat. Kyle, let's bring you in. Some alternate, some different looking tire strategies coming up this weekend. Obviously, it added extra pit stop on the street courses, which, as we know, there's a lot of fuel save, a lot of people trying to get to the end. Especially last year, remember there was only one yellow in this race, and that was off the very beginning when Will Power and Nolan Siegel had that incident. So, Kyle, what do we know about the new strategy coming up this weekend? And we're going to see an extra pit stop, which puts more emphasis on that final stop, that banker stop, so to speak, for these teams, these crews that haven't done a pit stop in anger since late August, early September.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is huge, having the second mandatory stint on the alternate tire. I think the story we're immediately going to be chasing when it comes to this race is going to be obviously the tire deg on the alternates. That's always what you look for during Friday practice. And it means even more now because unlike last year, where obviously you're right, we had that one yellow. What happened on that one yellow is everybody got off the alternates immediately, and we had no strategy in last year's race. And I don't remember too much of last year's race, if that's to say, the type of race it was. I do know Alex Palou won from 10th. And if you think we're going to get another Palou show, I wouldn't forget that was his first win at St. Pete in his career. And he did do it from 10th, right? Just like I mentioned. So I think it's going to be someone, it could be someone new. And I think having two mandatory stops in the alternates, which, by the way, are red now. Once again, they just announced that today. Red tires for the alternates.
Or went out for the greens. No more smoke in the greens.
Out for the Wyulis. If you remember the actual name Wyuli, I do. Pepperchar remembers. But yeah, I think it's going to be huge because I think the Grand Prix last year was a way more exciting race than it should have been, right? Than it had any right to be. And I think yeah, you're just gonna have to look for on Friday what the deg is. Well, I think Firestone will probably bring the same tire as last year, and it was soft enough that guys found it important to get off of it immediately in the race. So it should spice things up a little bit.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. We did this at the GP last year, right?
Yeah, that was like the test round.
So I remember specifically Pato and Power, when we asked them about this at the GP, said this would be bonkers on a street course. Like they were advocating actively for it to be used the next week in Detroit. Ultimately, that decision wasn't made, but I'm kind of excited to see this. Will it create chaos? Are we going to be sitting there on Sunday in St. Pete going, oh my God, what a shit show? I mean, maybe. I guess it'll give us something to talk about. And yes, Palou did win from fairly far back in the field last year, but like Palou, the way he won races last year, whether it was from the front row or whether it was from row 5, was the way he drives the car. He does a very good job of saving tires, and that allows his pit windows to open up. So I don't know if this is really going to neutralize Alex Palou. He's now going to have extra pit windows to gain an advantage. And if the perfect 10s are still perfect, then those pit stops aren't going to be a problem either.
Yeah. I think it's also going to be, I mean, if I did see the comments asking what these rules kind of do to the race. And I think if you want to see for yourself, I mean, you go back to the Grand Prix last year, I think it was the only race that we talked about and actually had thoughts of what tire people were starting on, the alternates or the primaries, and even all the way down to if you were starting on scuffs or stickers. So on Sunday, that's going to be another thing I hope the Fox crew is on top of. If you're a fan, you want to get as invested into this race as possible. That's definitely something to keep an eye on, because if you watch that Indy Grand Prix back, you're right, David. Pelot is so good at saving tires. That's his specialty. And if you thought for a second, like I did, that Graham Rahal was going to win that race, yeah, you were crazy like I was, because man, that he had it, because Graham had it all the way until that second to last stint. And then you realize that the strategy flipped and Pelot was going to have fresh alternates to the end. And, Graham had to hold him off on used primaries. So you could also see, even on the front row, like you saw at the Grand Prix, two guys start on different tires and the race kind of go 50-50 from there. And yeah, it's huge. Honestly, I think making the mandatory two-stop is, I'm kind of upset we didn't do it sooner. Like all the drivers were wanting for the next week at Detroit. So
alternatively, I do have this to say, is we think back to Long Beach, and one of the things that I thought Kyle Kirkwood would lose the race on was pit stops. If we add an extra pit stop, does Kyle Kirkwood win the Long Beach Grand Prix?
I see. It spiced it up. David, so you were gone last week, and there's two things I want to ask you about.
Okay.
And first, while we're on new rule changes, I'm sure you've heard, based on our reels and maybe saw on Twitter, that we're going to try one-shot qualifying. I think I have actually, while you were driving on a road trip, I definitely told you how badly I wanted this. What are your thoughts on qualifying in IndyCar? Because we've had a few discussions over the last week.
So the rumor is that they're doing one-shot qualifying at Arlington, right?
Is it Arlington? I didn't know the track.
That's the rumor that I've heard. Don't quote me on that.
I did go back and listen. I'm really bad because I didn't fully listen to the off track before we talked about it last week, and then I listened to it afterwards. And Rossi did not give the date. You might have just spoiled the beans. Maybe it's Arlington. Who knows?
Could be Arlington. Might not be. Got to show up to Arlington, everybody. You might get to see your pole shootout. So I floated that idea too a couple of times, and the thing that I've heard from drivers has always been, but track progression, meaning the last guy who goes out is always going to have the advantage, because the track will always evolve, especially with the guys going out on a new set or even a lightly used set of the softest compound tire. The last guy is always going to have an advantage. That being said, I think from a TV product perspective, Fox will definitely not miss the pole lap. And, what happens if a driver who qualifies fifth in the Fast Six ends up getting the pole position? Wouldn't that be cool? So I like the idea of a shootout qualifying style. I think it works very well in supercars. I think that's super exciting when we see that over there. I think it's really an Australian thing. Maybe there's some European GT championships that use it, but definitely it's something that I know is pretty heavily used in Australia. I like it. If that is true, that they are doing that and they are doing it at Arlington, I think it's going to be a really neat thing to see.
And second, I don't think we've asked you much everything about Phoenix except for give us the real stuff. How are we going to see double lanes? How is the tire deg? I think the deg is the big thing, because even if it's a single, like we've seen at Gateway a couple of years, we've seen at other short tracks, like if it's single lane, if the tire's good, it could still be a good race. So deg and multi grooves, what'd you see? Because I know you, even if you don't go into it in your report, you sat there all day and you watched cars and you notice these things. So what'd you see?
Yeah, it looked like the tires were pretty used up. So that's probably a good sign. As with all short ovals, I think the first stint's going to be pretty processional. Kyle Kirkwood told me that you're going to be able to pass, but it's not going to be two grooves. It's going to be the timing, kind of almost Indy 500 style pass, where you set up drivers coming off of a corner and you dive bomb them going in. I don't know. I don't think we'll see side by side kind of that style of racing, but I also don't think this is going to be a stinker. I think this is going to be a fairly decent race. Is it going to light the world on fire? Maybe, maybe not. I think, again, the key comes down to this, and there just simply wasn't enough traffic running to be able to make this determination, because even on the second day it rained, so we didn't really see a lot of traffic. If the faster cars can pass the slower cars, that's a recipe for a good short oval race. If everybody's jammed up, log jam style, and nobody can pass, then you're in trouble. But the comments I heard from Kyle, and Kyle's pretty good at predicting what a race is going to look like, I'm feeling pretty confident that we're going to be okay. The first stint, again, it's going to look like Gateway Milwaukee in that first stint where it's pretty processional. But once you get some guys on some different tire strategies and get some different tire life out there, I think it'll sort itself out. And I think as the race goes on, especially as this is a track, yes, we've gotten 2 test days there, but it's a new track. And I think without having a super thick setup book, you're going to see some guys hit it right dead on and some guys miss it big time. And I think that separation will help as well.
Speaking of separation, I want to get both of your guys' thoughts on just the start of the season. I mean, when you look back at years past, especially in the 2000s, this has to be one of the most unique starts to a season that we've seen in IndyCar. You have the unpredictable streets of St. Pete. You have Phoenix and the return to that racetrack, which, yes, some drivers on the circuit right now do have experience there. And then you have Arlington, where obviously the cream of the crop is going to rise because you don't have that much time to really get adjusted and amplified to that racetrack. So I can't remember a season going in where it just seems to be so unpredictable in what we know and what we don't know, knowing that 2 of the first 3 races of the season are quote-unquote new tracks, with Arlington being 100% new and Phoenix pretty much new. It's a different layout. It's a different race car for IndyCar, different than what it was in the end of the 2010s when they were there. So, David, we'll start with you. Just the dynamic first 3 races that we see, I think, is huge. And I say that, and we still might have Alex Palou with a 40-point lead heading into the 4th race of the season.
Well, 100%, but I think that the beginning of this season is more important than it ever has been, because essentially the Indy 500 becomes the midway point of the season. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of points to be gained here. I mean, like, the thing about the beginning of the season in the past is that you almost kind of look past the championship because it doesn't matter until we get through Indy. The championship matters now. There's so many races before the Indianapolis 500 that we're going to have a pretty good idea of what the championship fight looks like going into the Indy 500, and we've really never had that before. We've never had this many races before the Indy 500 before. So I think for sure, if you get off to a bad start, especially with this kind of hellacious early swing with 4 races in 5 weeks, I think that, I think this is a recipe for a very compelling championship.
And Kyle, let's go to you on that as well. Do you feel like with this having 2 of the first 3, does that help some of the younger drivers kind of close that gap? Or are we going to see the veterans? What's up, Boris? Are we going to see the veterans kind of rise to the top, knowing that when you get to Phoenix, there's not going to be I think Phoenix and Arlington, when you look at it, are probably going to be 2 of the most jam-packed, you got to get it right, roll off the truck early races of the season.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I mean, I really like seeing an oval in there to kind of spice things up, because then you get to already at the beginning of the season get to kind of write those stories of Mick Schumacher's first oval and Dennis Houghton, like, the rookies, get that right off the bat, get them clicks, get people talking about it and watching and interested just based on that alone. Because you're right, it's going to be, I think Phoenix is going to be big time for the veterans. I think Alex Palou's never raced there. Scott Dixon has, things like that. I think I just saw in the comments, the biggest thing is just that we have IndyCar on the next 3 weekends straight.
Yeah,
race 1 through 3 straight, and then we only get 1 weekend off until the 4th one. 2 weeks, sadly, we have Easter to break it up, but 2 weeks until Long Beach after that. But before you know it, those whole 2 weeks we're going to be talking about. By the way, still don't have a field of 33 for the Indy 500, and then by the way, after Long Beach we're testing on the oval. So like I've been saying since pretty much the end of January, this thing's flying by. We're in this thing now. I think that's huge for the schedule, and probably the best schedule we've had in years. The best start, I would say. We're gonna have a lot of momentum, but I think we have to revisit this though in the middle of June, July, and see how we really feel. Because right now everyone's excited, we're all hyped. So
I don't think the gap in April is going to be as bad as we think it is. I mean,
No.
honestly, like April's going to be a banger of a month because you got Long Beach, and then immediately our focus shifts to the Indy 500.
Right.
So you got you're playing the hits at that point.
Yeah.
So for me, I think
I said
yeah.
we have Easter one of the weekends to break it up a little bit. That whole time people are gonna be writing, we're gonna be chatting, and I think by then we're probably still gonna be talking about getting to 33. Fingers crossed we're not, but unfortunately I think that's where we're at right now because I think not having anything, not to get into that can of worms, but I think not having even a rumor of oh, this is almost done. We're getting really close to being in a really desperate spot to fill 33.
Well, hey, guess what? Fernando Alonso keeps having a bad time over in Formula One. I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the entry list at this point. Next month.
Kind of talked about this last week. We are assuming that Takuma Sato is back with Rahal. He tested back in October, but we still have not had an official announcement. Connor Daly, more than likely in the Dry and Reinbold car, but still haven't had an announcement. Colin Milot tweeted today that he'll be down in St. Petersburg, Florida, but is he going to be with Prema at Long Beach? Does that ultimately parlay him into an Indianapolis 500 run? Does Prema go with two cars? Who ends up in the 98? Is it indeed Colton Herta? Does somebody else pull out a third car? David, anything that you're hearing? Because from my side, my vantage point of things, it's been pretty quiet when it comes to getting to 33 for the month of May.
Yeah, it's going to come down to whatever becomes of Prema, right? At this point, Connor's done. Marco's done, or it's not Marco. Colton's done. I'm good. It's going to take me a little while to get over 98 cars, not Marco. But yeah, lock in Colton, lock in Connor. Those two seats are done. I would almost. I mean, if it's not Sato, I'm going to do a backflip, right?
Yeah.
In the Rahal car. So I think you could seal all those away. And then it's pretty academic, right? Because if Prema shows up, or whatever form Prema ends up taking, shows up with two cars, it's the exact same 34 as last year. Where it becomes a bit tricky is if Prema doesn't have an extra entry, then you've opened up a Chevy engine, and where does that lead? We've known for a while that Honda has an extra one that they almost used last year on a couple of different entries. Ultimately, the circumstances didn't allow that to take place. But now that Honda has recommitted to the series, one would think that if a program could be put together, now where would it come from? Especially if there's a need, who knows? But I could certainly see, if a need arose, right? Again, a need. You would think that a Ganassi could step up to the plate and add an extra car if need be.
Even as to get us to 33, correct?
To get us to 33, that's right. And now who would drive it? God only knows. I think we should also mention a driver who's still unannounced as well, Helio Castroneves, as the third Shank car. I feel like we have not. Has that been announced yet?
I don't think it's officially been announced, but there might have been an announcement last year that it was for 2 more years, but I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
But again, would we be shocked if it was anybody else?
Well, no, it's going to be Helio. And so just to kind of but to clean that up, right? There's still a few of the usual suspects that we have 99% sure we know where they're going to be. We know what car they're going to be in, and we know what engine they're going to be using. Okay, great, lock them in. Then you get to Prema, and if it's one car, well, then you're at 33, right? And that's academic. If it's 0 cars, you're at 32. And if it's 2, you're at 34, and all of this was a big nothing burger.
Let me ask you this, just spitball and just throwing things out there. Let's say Prema says, look, we are going to roll with one car at the Indianapolis 500 to get to 33. IndyCar, the rumor was that for the first 2 years of Prema's existence, last year and this year, that they would be in every race, obviously outside of the Indianapolis 500. Would IndyCar step in and say, we will cap the field at 33 to make sure that Prema car is in the field? Or if that second Chevy were to open up, which I don't know, call it the 90 car, would IndyCar allow a 34th entry with Chevy?
I don't see why you wouldn't. Quite honestly, I think if Prema doesn't show up to the first 4 races, they've probably thrown away any goodwill they were going to get from the series.
Yeah,
that would be my opinion. Now, this is the thing, though, too, is that what team is capable of putting together an entry this late? I mean, it's happened before, but if you're going to put an entry together this late for 34, you better make damn sure that you're going to make the field with it. Yeah. Certainly, if you have a Chevy, you're going to have a better chance of getting in the field if you're 34 than if you're a Honda. But that doesn't guarantee anything. That's why we have qualifications for the Indianapolis 500. And if you, like, for example, let's say you put together that kind of weird Dragon Speed, AJ Foyt entry that Stephen Wilson used to fill the field a couple of years ago, right? But instead of filling the field, you're putting that together to try to bump your way into the field. Then you're going, okay, this is borderline. So I don't know. I mean, history has shown you can put together an entry this late. Do you want to do it without a guarantee that you're going to get in? Oof, that's a tough one.
Let me ask you this. You talked about who would do it. Who would be capable of that 34th entry, so to speak, let's say with Chevy backing? Is this something where a Juncos or a Foyt would come to mind, knowing that they have connections now with Indy Next programs? They would have the personnel. If Chevy says, yes, we have the engine, you could find a driver that maybe has some money, and you could find a chassis easily. Is that kind of where we think we would look when it comes to Chevy?
Yeah, I think if the desire's there, and I think I know for a fact Juncos has looked at a third car at times, so we'll see. I mean, it would be late, because if you're Juncos and you wanted to do something in November, December, and you got told no, and then all of a sudden the opportunity arises, and now you can say yes. Do you even want to say yes? Do you want to take that risk? What benefit do you have by adding a third car to the Indy 500 at this time? That's going to be a concern. I guess the good news is, everybody, kids, is that with the manufacturers footing the bill for 2 extra cars here in the next couple of years, when we get to 27 full time, it makes getting to 33 and beyond for the Indy 500 a hell of a lot easier. So we might only be in this kind of odd, will we get to 33 nonsense for the next 2 years at the most, and then I think we'll feel a little bit better about this.
Let's go through a little season preview with all of the teams as we get ready to go green down in the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida. We'll start with AJ Foyt Racing. Obviously, we got the news that we kind of already had heard of the Penske connection staying with Santino Ferrucci. Kyle Collette joins it in the 4-car. If I'm not mistaken, Kyle, if you want to pull up the chart, I think is this Santino's?
Contract year.
This is his contract year.
This is a contract year, and fun fact, because everybody loves these stats, they don't really mean anything, but Santino will be making his 100th start at the Indy 500.
Wow. So there you go. But for Foyt, I mean, you've got an up and coming talent and a rookie in Kyle Collette. You've got Santino Ferrucci. Everybody's kind of been waiting for Ferrucci to knock down the walls and win a race. Obviously, his season was kind of derailed the last year, for lack of a better term, in Toronto. Had a great finish at Road America. He's coming off his first pole at Portland a few years back. So, David, Kyle, your guys' expectations on what to expect first and foremost out of AJ Foyt Racing this year?
I think they'll be right about where they were last year. I think Kyle Collette's going to surprise some people. I know he's had some trouble in testing, mechanical failure at Sebring and a crash at Phoenix, but I think he's going to be all right. And I think he's got easily the strongest car to work with throughout the season of the 3 rookies that will be going for the rookie title. So Santino, on the other hand, certainly he'll be a contender at the Indianapolis 500. I think he'll probably be a pretty persistent top 10 finisher at most other races. Will he compete for a win? Hard to say.
Kyle?
I think Ferrucci is going to be good at the 500. I agree with everything David said. I think all eyes are on Kyle Collette, honestly, because I think everyone has high expectations for that kid, and I think maybe give him a break in the first couple of races, but once we hit that summer stretch, I could see a few Fast 6 appearances, and I think really kind of expectations. That 4-car was really good in qualifying. All right, that you saw what David Malukas did with that thing. I think he should be transferring to the Q2 almost every time, make it out of that first group in sixth, and then finishing races and at least show improvement. Get a top 10 here or there. Don't fall off. I mean, the biggest thing you see rookies do is you just fall off on saving tires and struggle a bit with the pit stop. So like just show improvement of that over the season, crank some top 10s out, and I think qualifying is really where all eyes are going to be on him to actually do something.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, a lot of this, obviously, the rookies coming up for the first time, their first, pit stops in real time action, and just, the timing of how bad that can go, especially for a rookie. We've seen races from rookies look like they are heading towards a top 10 finish, and a last pit stop when it's make or break time doesn't go the right way. I think Kyle Collette's going to have a good season. He's going to be my pick for Rookie of the Year. And again, for Santino, I mean, look, it's getting back to consistency. You go back to 2024 when he was inside the top 10 in points for most of the season. He was consistent not only on the ovals, which is where we expect him to be, but also road and street. And as you mentioned, Kyle, that 4-car was on the front row last year at Detroit. Santino, Ferrucci obviously had a couple of runs there. Road America comes to mind, but obviously the accident kind of derailed the season. One of the biggest ones, I think one of the biggest storylines heading into the 2026 season is Andretti Global with Kyle Kirkwood. Can he put together a championship full season? I think he put together a championship few months to start the year last year, obviously all for naught with the way Alex Palou started. Marcus Ericsson in a contract year, and Will Power his first season with Andretti Global. David, Kyle and I talked about this last week, so I'll start with you. The expectations on what Will Power can bring to this team, and ultimately we're going to be comparing more than likely what the 26 car is doing compared to the 12 car.
Agreed. I think that ultimately Will Power has said it even himself, right? He and Team Penske kind of were good in the areas that Andretti Global was not, and vice versa. So if they can put together the best two elements of that animal, they will have a very strong package. I know Will was not very happy with the street course package personally at Sebring. Seemed pretty fast at Phoenix. Again, we'll have to kind of see. The thing about testing times that we have to remember is that when teams put on tires and make a run makes a huge difference about how fast they went during the day. So you can't read too much into testing times. I know Will's been up there. Some of that could be gamesmanship. We'll have to see. I think that the first practice session at St. Pete and certainly qualifying at St. Pete will tell us where that 26 car really is. As for Andretti Global as a whole, I think we're all waiting on Kyle Kirkwood to have a breakout year. I think if he could qualify well at the Indianapolis 500, I think he could win that race. And I think for Marcus Ericsson, you got to put some good stuff on film this year, because if you're not coming back to Andretti, you got to go somewhere else, and you got to make sure that team is willing to hire you wherever you end up.
Yeah, somebody mentioned this in the chat, and it's such a great point from the 26 squad. I was trying to find it here. Obviously, one of the heads of that 26 team has gone on to take a role in IndyCar. But, man, how many times have we talked about, the 26 car late in the race with Colton Herta having an opportunity and something goes wrong in the pits? So I think for me and Andretti Global, it's first and foremost, can those guys finish out races? And they haven't really been good on ovals over the last 3 or 4 years. Obviously, yes, Kyle Kirkwood did win last year at Gateway, but he even told us on media day, like, it's because the Penske's got knocked out. We got on a different strategy, and we were probably the 6th or 7th best car. We just happened to kind of move our way up. So I want to see a little bit more progress on ovals with this squad. Obviously, you go back to Marcus Ericsson's second place finish last year at the 500, which was taken away the next day. For Ericsson, it's getting back to that consistency that we saw him have with Ganassi. It's getting back to, staying in that top 8, and that starts on a Friday. He's got obviously new engineering this year, which you would hope would help him. As far as Kyle Kirkwood goes, I'm with you, and I'm kind of with the chat here. Like, this is it. Like, I think this is the opportunity for him to really compete for a championship all season long. And I think we're all excited to see what Will Power can do, especially this week on a street course, a place where, Andretti Global's had really good cars on street courses. So I think all eyes are going to be on Andretti Global throughout the season, Kyle.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I said it last week. I think that Kyle Kirkwood is probably the best bet we have to beat Alex Blow this year. Last year, he was the only driver for at least half the season that showed any competence in contending with Blow while he was going on his win streak. So, yeah, Kyle Kirkwood has got to step up and be that guy this year because he is also taking over the leadership role of that team because him and Herta kind of they didn't butt heads. They got along swimmingly. Really good friends. Never got into it on track, but even if Kirkwood was outperforming Herta, you always had that sense that Herta was the leader of the team because he'd been there, an IndyCar driver for that team about 4 years earlier. So he was always kind of the leader of that team. And now Kyle Kirkwood is without a doubt the longest tenured driver there, probably getting paid the most. Has close ties with Honda now as he's been in their Super Bowl ads. So he's the face. He's the guy there. We know Will Power stepping in and he brings a lot of experience and a lot of speed, just raw speed to that team. But Kirkwood's the man. He's got to prove it. I think everyone's going to be talking about Will Power. That's going to be the story that everyone's going to be watching him. All eyes are on him. But honestly, I'm less concerned with that myself personally because no matter how Will Power performs in an Andretti car, it will do nothing to diminish the success that he's already had. And if he goes out and he sucks in an Andretti car, oh well, that sucks. Sad. If he goes out and wins more championships, it just adds to the legacy. So it could go either way. What I'm watching is Marcus Ericsson and what he does this season because he's in a really pivotal spot. Because if he does well, second at the 500 last year, he maybe converts that to a win, finishes top 10 in the standings. He has a chance to keep that ride. I think the leaders at Andretti Global would happily keep him. But man, outside 20th in the points, that can't happen another year. It absolutely can't. That's going to be one of those so sad, but he's got to be out of there. The same thing with Nolan Siegel, right? But if you finish outside the top 20 in the standings, I'm sorry, you can't be doing that. So Kirkwood and Ericsson to me are the real focus of Andretti Global.
All right, put you guys both on the spot. Will Will Power have a victory in 2026?
Yes. I think so.
How many wins did Colton have last year?
Big old 0.
There's your answer.
Wow.
How many wins does Andretti Global as a whole have? Over, under 2?
Ooh, God, I wanted to take the even money there because I would have said 2, and they're both going to be Kirkwood.
I think it's over.
Kirkwood, that would require me to say that Kirkwood's going to win 3 races this year. Man, I mean maybe. You know what?
Yeah,
I'll take Kirkwood at 3 wins.
Yeah, you already took Will Power not having a win, so you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
To wrap up the Andretti thing, I mean, I think everybody's looking at Kyle Kirkwood and the expectations on him. We've kind of known since his days at Indy Next that he had this talent, this potential, and they let him go wreck everything in sight when he was with Foyt for the year. And he finally – it's hard to win a race in IndyCar, but I think when you get that first race win in, you kind of know what the expectations are and what it takes. So huge expectations for Kyle Kirkwood in 2026. Let's go to Dale Coyne Racing, a very interesting team. We'll see how much the Andretti Global kind of connection helps them this season. Roman Grosjean, who obviously has ran in the past for Andretti Global, and then you bring in Dennis Hogger, who is your Indy Next champion from 2025. I'm going to keep it simple as I do with every rookie. It's complete as many laps as you can. Don't make mistakes where you shouldn't be making mistakes and bring the car home in one piece. As far as Roman Grosjean, I mean, I like the guy, but this is the guy who's been out of the series for a year, hasn't really had the best career in IndyCar. I think some would say that when he came over here and the expectations certainly have not been matched. With that being said, he did have probably his best year in IndyCar when he was with Dale Coyne Racing. So your thoughts on kind of a new look DCR coming into the 2026 season?
Here, I'll start here. I think Dennis Hogger is going to be great. I have no questions with him. What I really like about this lineup and you mentioned Romain Grosjean, hasn't had the best IndyCar career, but it really put into perspective for me when I listened to his interview with Alexander Rossi on Off Track, where, I had kind of the same thoughts of Romain Grosjean going into this season of like, what, the time's kind of passed for him to do this, right? It's kind of, he's already been with Coyne once, hasn't won a race yet. But really the position of Roma is he wanted to be back in IndyCar and kind of finish it out on his terms. Because I think everyone kind of forgets his season with Juncos, because it was not bad. He had a good year with Juncos, and really at the end of the season, in retaining him, it just came down to funds, because Roma is not paying for a seat. Roma is he's gonna race, or he's gonna get paid to race. And even if the seat's being paid for, there's going to be money involved that pays him. So he wanted to retire from single seaters in his own terms, because he's a Lamborghini driver. He could go do sports cars if he wanted to full time, but he wanted to do a season in single seaters and just end on his own terms. And he's not saying, he didn't say he was retiring after this year, but he's really, this season is kind of the make or break to Roma himself on, can I still do this? And are we? So look, when you go in with that mindset, not to say like, oh, I'm really good, I have to be doing this, and saying like, look, I want to see and I want to end on my terms. I think he deserves that. And look, I think with that team and that energy, I could see that happening. I could see him actually doing really well in a couple of races.
And I think to that point, real quick, David, to what you said, is just he's going to be more relaxed. There's not going to be these huge expectations that he's coming over from Formula One and you have to win races and contend for championships. I think when you're kind of on your own and things are a little bit more laid back and you're on your own terms, you relax a little bit more, and the results seem to maybe come for those that are just like, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to make it happen. I'm doing this on my own terms. We're going to have some fun and make it happen.
Just to address Nuke Shot Media's point real quick is that, and Honda's already said this, in no uncertain terms, Meyer Shank Racing is the factory team. There will not be another factory team running the Honda car in 2028. It is Meyer Shank Racing. So That's great of Dale. Dale, you probably should have run a sports car team if you wanted that program. That being said, I think that Dale Coyne Racing has stepped it up significantly this year, quite honestly. I think this is the best driver lineup that they've fielded in a long time. Like, I'm trying to think back. I can't remember like a 1-2 punch of like two really solid drivers in a long time. Yeah, because they always have...
Michael Cannon staying, correct? He's still there?
Yep. Saw him on the pit box in Phoenix. So,
that's huge.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and they've got, who'd they add? They added somebody. Kind of an older name. I'm forgetting. I'm drawing a blank, race fans.
As long as Ryan's still changing tires, I'll cheer for that car.
Ryan's doing it all, race fans. He's doing it all.
What's Olivier Beauson doing now?
He's
not on Coyne.
He didn't go back and join Roma?
He's still with Andretti in some other role. I don't know if it's... I know that they have some people that stay back race weekends as far as strategists and kind of looking at a few things. I think that's up to him. So, all right, we're giving predictions. How many top 10 finishes for the two cars this season for Dale Coyne Racing? Over, under 5.5?
Oh, under. Because I was going to say 5.
Yeah, under. It's going to be under. It's too strong of a field, and as strong of a driver lineup as this is, Renus, how many top 10s did Renus have last year?
7 or 8, maybe.
Boy, I mean, sure. I mean, I guess it's possible to have an over there when you've got 2 bullets in the gun. Still gonna say under. Okay. Still gonna say under.
Yeah, I think there'll be a couple races where we look up, and to me, competition-wise in IndyCar, I think top 12s are just as impressive as top 10s right now. Top 12s, kind of the new benchmark, so to speak. I think there's going to be some races where we look up and we're like, okay, yeah, Dennis Hogger was 9th. Yeah, okay, I could see that. Maybe in Iowa, we saw Renus and Jacob Abel drive to the top 14 last year. So we shall see.
We don't have Iowa anymore.
So let's look at Ed Carpenter Racing. Obviously, it was a new look last year with Alexander Rossi and Christian Rasmussen. You add Ed Carpenter to the Indianapolis 500. Rasmussen gets a win last season. Rossi was had some good runs. I don't think that he was, in a position that I think that he would tell you, yeah, I'm happy with the results. And in fact, I asked him on media day, and he said there's still a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of learning to do. So the expectations for the ECR machines heading into 2026, you expect them to kind of take one more step forward. Yes, they won a race last year, but you expect both cars to take one more step forward and be in the contention for top 10 in the championship.
They're not there yet. I think their street course program's still going to suffer a little bit. I think short ovals are going to be excellent. I think that you expect them to be top 10, if not race-winning contenders at all the short ovals, both cars. Indy 500, everybody kind of forgets that Rossi probably had a car to win last year until the Pop went to Chevy. But I think that there's a really good opportunity for them on the oval tracks. Road courses probably okay. Street courses are going to be the Achilles heel, and that's what's going to keep them out of championship contention. But I would agree, Tony. I think there's going to be a step up by Ed Carpenter Racing. It's just not going to be the major step up that I think maybe some people are expecting.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be to Andretti level or McLaren level, Ganassi level. But I do see them maybe on the road courses. You'll see a little bit of a difference. Maybe some more top tens. Their biggest struggle the last, I would say, 6 seasons, really, like since the 2020s, has been really engineering. It's really been just finding, outside of on the road courses is having fast race cars, because they've had fast drivers in those cars. It just comes down to the talent pool in IndyCar of engineers and people, and not saying that they don't have talented people on the box at that team. It's just experience, and people still learning. So I think with the money that's been brought into that team and the changes they've made and the direction they're heading in, I think Rossi and Rasmussen are both going to be probably a little bit more consistent on road courses. Rossi, I just posted that real kind of heart.
I'm surprised he didn't chirp at you for that. That seems like Rossi was going to chirp, and they never did.
I felt like he could have, but it's just kind of like I saw that trend, and I looked at all the IndyCar drivers, and who it made me think of is it's Rossi, because like there was a time if you would have told all of us here in 2018 when Rossi was doing his thing, that Pato Award was going to join the series in 2020, and with 4 less seasons, Pato would surpass Rossi in career wins. Like,
I thought Rossi was going to be the next Dixon.
Yeah, we all thought that Rossi was the guy, and I think that's why. Honestly, I think a guy like Rossi, this is so sad to say, when Palou first started his dominance, I think that's why we were a little bit hesitant in like the first year or two, is we were like, we've seen this before.
Can't fool me.
You might go into the next season and you might just, fall off. Like, we've seen this before. We've said the next Dixon probably about 5 drivers now. We said that about Newgarden.
And we had.
Well, unlike Dixon, Newgarden can win the 500 more than once.
Right. And I think Rossi is actually low-key is still a contender at the 500. His last year at McLaren, if you really break down the stats, was really good. Without a driver as good as Christian Lundgaard, he probably still deserved that McLaren 7 car. Just Lundgaard's just so good. So I expect Rossi to kind of, hopefully with a more consistent ECR car, a little bit more of a return to form, maybe what we saw in 2024. And hopefully, because I think all of us fans and people that have been around since 2017, 2018 kind of hope to see Rossi make it back to victory lane, because I think we all know he's very talented. It's just the last 4 or 5 years have been rough.
And they've had some engineering changes going into 2026 as well. So we'll see if the fruits of that labor come to fruition here in the first weekend down at St. Pete. Will we see an Ed Carpenter car in Victory Circle this year?
Yeah, bank on it.
Okay. Let's move on to Chip Ganassi Racing. Obviously, the dominating season that Palou has, really dominating career. Scott Dixon, 1 win last season, and you could say, I don't want to say it was handed to him, because nothing's handed to you in this life, but certainly a rare mistake from Palou led to a Mid-Ohio victory for Scott Dixon. Was very impressed at times last year with Kevin Simpson. Obviously, Toronto and Nashville come to mind. What are we looking at for Chip Ganassi Racing, or is it just stay status quo, have Kiffin kind of move up a step and just keep winning races?
More of the same. There is nothing to suggest that Alex Palou is not going to do the exact same thing he did last year. Yeah. I've seen nothing to suggest that. The dude is so cool, calm, and collected every time I talk to him. And he's just like, yep, business as usual. Nothing wrong. It's like, okay, well.
It's amazing.
Well, it's funny. He actually tried, because I know this for a fact, because he told me it off the air. At Sebring, he was specifically like, I'm not going to say amazing in this interview. And then when we talked at the Borg Warner thing, he couldn't have said amazing more in a 2-minute answer. So
I think
Alex,
that was me, because I told him at some point last year, I was like, I just want to see how many times I can get you to say amazing in one.
Dude, his team members,
interview.
the perfect
honestly,
tens.
The guy's been so damn perfect that I thought, you know what, we're going to do this interview, and he's not even going to think about it, and he's going to nail it and say amazing 10 times.
You need to understand something. Like everybody knows he says amazing, and boy oh boy, when he's off the air, that's the only word he ever hears. So the fact that he still says amazing and it hasn't been beaten out of him is crazy to me. I think that's just part of his personality at this point, which is fine. And yes, we get the red car back, we get the Solo Cup car back at some point. Glad they announced that, so I don't have another incident where I spill something I already know on Unverified.
That Solo car was epic, and you better not miss it again this year, David, because that was so cool.
I get it. I really enjoyed Elkhart Lake for IMSA. I'm looking forward to being back there for IMSA. Maybe we could get a Solo Cup car at the IMSA race. Just kidding. I think that Alex is going to have the same season he did last year. I mean, it's going to be like, oh, he didn't win the Indy 500, but he still won 7 races. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be one of those years. I think Bob Pockris is right about Scott Dixon. I think a lot of people forget that he kind of got kneecapped last year because his Honda blew up on the startup in Sebring for the test, and that essentially just hamstrung him the entire season. He was dealing with grid penalties essentially from Detroit on. I think that you probably see 2 or 3 wins for Dixon, depending on the cards falling right and whether or not Palou, as we saw at Mid-Ohio, makes mistakes. Kiff Dog, at the end of the day, he's going to have to start showing something at some point. I know his seat is extremely safe. I'm not expecting him to be on any kind of hot seat anytime soon. But I think that if you're Kiffin, look, you've got some really, really stellar teammates, and you can continue to learn from them. He showed some flashes of brilliance last year. I think we really need to point that out. That duel with McLaughlin for third at Nashville was nothing short of brilliant, and he says he can't drive on ovals, so I can't wait to find out what happens when he can drive on ovals. And a great podium at Toronto, too. So, I think Kiffin will be there at some point, and I think we've all kind of said it. I think we're going to see a Kiff Dog win at some point this year. Banking on it at PNC Bank.
Yeah.
A bold prediction for the Sunoco number 8. Before we wrap up Chip Ganassi Racing, over under 5.5 wins for Alex Palou, over under 1.5 for Dixon.
Over on both.
Yeah, I'm gonna say over, and I agree with the win for Kiffin. I think it's gonna happen. And he had that podium at it was an almost podium at Nashville, wasn't it? But he had that battle with Scott McLaughlin, almost podium. He had a podium at Toronto, but I think everyone forgets as well that he had Fast 6 appearances at Mid-Ohio, and he was making it to Q2 in almost every race because he's driving a rocket ship. And we just found out through some articles, I don't know if anyone's paying attention to this, but Kiff Dog, and the dog in Kiff Dog stands for the dude in his off time in the off season is out just driving DP01s for fun, for testing, right? So the guy's a dog. He's keeping up.
Kiff was driving a DP01?
That's what they were saying.
Was he out there with Paul Tracy out there?
That was what Marshall. You got to read that article. I can't believe you missed that because they're talking about how they're using DP01s to skate around testing limitations now.
That's unbelievable. That's huge.
And there was that rumor too. People were saying that Kiffin the year before he went to IndyCar was testing F2 cars and everything that he could that was as fast as an IndyCar.
So that's a tale as old as time, by the way, because when Sam Hornish went to Penske and he needed to get moved up on road courses really quick, Penske just broke the freaking bank out. They put, I don't know, I've never seen pictures of this, but apparently they put him in a whole bunch of old Penske Indy cars and just ran him. So there you go.
The tale is pretty well known that Kiffin's there because of money, but the kid's putting in so much work and the results are there, right? He's so close. And every time I say, hey, Kiffin Simpson's going to win a race this season. Everyone laughs, but then I say, Charlie Kimball won a race at Mid-Ohio in 2013. I was there to witness it. It's going to happen. That third Ganassi car is going to find a way.
Gift Dog got that champ car riz, baby. He got that champ car riz. He gonna put it. He went to the Willpower School and drive it.
Yeah,
he gonna drive like Willpower this year.
Last point on Palou. I think you're totally right that there's nothing saying that like everything should be status quo. What I'm interested in Palou, and you saw this a few times last year where the intensity kind of ramped up a little bit, is when is someone gonna race him a little bit harsher wheel to wheel? You know, I feel like we might reach that tipping point where the guy's got a target on his back. And maybe, I'm not saying he's going to get put in the wall or race dirty, but there were a lot of times on strategy where I felt like Palou was getting passed. And I was like, you know, it's impressive. And it says a lot about Alex Palou, the person, and the respect people have for him is that, you know, he is very rare there's any wheel-to-wheel contact made or any, you know, kind of roughing up. Because if you're behind in strategy and you're racing Alex Palou for a win, when you go for a pass, like I feel like kind of getting like touching wheels and, you know, trying to get him into a mistake. And I feel like he's so perfect. That's the only way to race him. So I'm kind of looking for that. I feel like the intensity's a little bit higher to have some maybe, you know, harsher, rougher racing, you know, when you're dealing with Alex.
And I think kind of like to your point too, if we were going to see that, you would think the driver would be a Christian Rasmussen late in the race at Milwaukee. Obviously,
right.
The strategies were a little bit different, and Alex kind of knew, all right, well, this guy's got it. I don't. I'm going to back off and just take my second place finish, which is, you know, you talk about how do you win a championship. That's exactly it right there. While we're on the subject of Ganassi, let's go to Shank. Marcus Armstrong back in the fold, as is Felix Rosenqvist. We know Marcus is there for a couple more years. We know that Felix is coming up on a contract season. I at times last year, maybe more than not, David, we saw Marcus Armstrong running better than we saw Felix Rosenqvist running. And I think the question with Felix has always been, how do you turn that qualifying speed into the results on Sunday? I would go to bat to say that one of the most impressive seasons last year, and when it comes to taking that next step, was Marcus Armstrong. Obviously was in contention late in races. Kind of month of May was a little bit harsh on him, but from there on, I think they were in the top 8 in every race to finish out the season, was on the podium, looked good at Iowa, had some really good runs. So our thoughts and impressions on the 60 and 66, which, by the way, shout out, we'll see Tom Petty this weekend on the car. We're going to hopefully get some other acts and bands throughout the season as well. That one, sorry, that's on Felix's car, as mentioned.
This is the breakout year, I think.
Car sucks. Change the Roots car back.
Oh, he doesn't like the root car.
About as lame as the ticket they unveiled earlier. Whoops, I said it.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Wave it off. Well, on a positive note, Marcus Armstrong's going to have a hell of a year, I think. I think this is it. Yeah, I think as you mentioned it, Tony, he kind of quietly snuck up on it last year. Not a lot of people recognized it, but he had a hell of an end of the season. Both he and Callum Ilott, really, I would say, were the two that kind of had years at the end of the year that we didn't really talk about nearly as much as we probably should have. But I think Marcus is in a great position to kind of show what he's made of. He looked great in testing, both at Sebring and in Phoenix. So from that perspective, I mean, we obviously know he's safe at Shank for a couple more years. Who's not safe is Felix Rosenqvist. We'll see what will happen. I mean, obviously, Felix has a race win. He can do it. He is capable of doing it. But I think he needs to start winning races this year. You got to get that thing in victory lane. And if not on victory lane, consistently on the podium. It's got to happen for Felix.
Kyle, we know you want a Diplo car this year.
I do. I made a tweet earlier. I regretted it a little bit afterwards because I remembered that he ran a Diplo car. But I want another one because AutoNation, that beautiful pink car, went away, and then they started doing these Sirius XM special cars. And I feel like Diplo didn't get a full special car. You know what I mean? They did like the side pods, and he was there. And they have a lot of – Sirius XM does have radio channels that are under the 50-year-old age demographic. I'm not saying it's wrong. I love it. Just like at least one, please. But I agree. I think this is a big season for Meyershank Racing, and the fact that I think it's time for them to win a race outside of the one Indy 500 win, right? Like Marcus Armstrong is due to have more podiums than he's had, and it's just it feels like Shank Racing feels like do you remember like the Jiffy Pop that you like the popcorn on the stove, and it's just like it's getting bigger and it's about to burst. Like they're about to like finally win races, be in the top 3 championship contenders, but it's not. We just have to see, right? Like it's right there though. They're so close.
All right, guys. 0 race wins. Both drivers win a race, or only one driver wins a race for Shank in 2026.
Only one. Marcus Armstrong.
Ooh. Is it on a street
Is he the
course?
next first-time winner in the series?
Yeah. I think I'll put my freaking chips in here. I bet he wins St. Pete.
Oh.
Ooh.
There you go.
So he's going to win a race before David Malukas wins a race. I'll tell you what.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, here's what we'll do. Here's what we will do. We're going to have another friendly dinner bet between David and I.
Oh, here we go.
I will say that David Malukas wins before Marcus Armstrong does.
No way. Nope. I don't think so.
Loser buys the winner dinner when it happens.
There you go.
We're like, this is kind of sad though, because last time it was Green Dot Stables, and now we
It could just be the stables.
like where are we going? Like to the pier? What are we doing?
Before Detroit, it'll be the stables. How about that? If it's it's somewhere where we are, we'll have to figure it out. Let's move over to McLaren. Obviously, there are huge expectations on Pato O'Ward to have a championship season, to win the Indianapolis 500. Christian Lundgaard taking another giant step. Obviously, a couple podiums last year, had a pole, and then Nolan Siegel, who I ran into yesterday. It's the same horse that we just keep talking about. It's can Nolan perform? If not, he's going to be out of that race car. So expectations for Arrow McLaren in 2026.
Boy, they were the top Chevy team last year, and I don't think they're going to maintain that. As much as I believe in Pato, like you've got to have another dog in the fight, and maybe Lundgaard can step up and be that. There were times that he was that last year, but man, I think Penske's going to look really good, especially with Scott McLaughlin, and we'll see with Pato. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 1 or 2 wins this year, but it's going to be a lot tougher sledding this year on the bow tie side of things than it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, a comment said it earlier when I asked where Olivier Bosson went, and he's at McLaren. So this stable has all of the tools, a brand new facility to work out of, and just they should be the powerhouse. This should be the year in that newer environment that they're working out of with all these people that have been brought to the team. This should be the year where Pato and Lundgaard and Nolan, right, should go all be in the top 5 in points, winning race. They should win St. Pete. They should go out there and be the team to beat, right? But obviously, history shows that they're not that team yet. So, but everything written on paper, they should be. But David, what does that fade? Like, do you not agree?
Did you just say Nolan should be in the top 5?
In the car he's driving, he should be.
Oof.
I'm not saying like he's going to be. I'm saying
you just said that they need to. You saying McLaren should be 3 of the top 5 cars in the series?
Yeah, they should be.
Oof.
With the facility that they have, the engineers they have, like
they would need. They need to really reevaluate a lot of things if they're going to do that. Because yeah.
I would say this. I think McLaren has a victory in the first 3 races of 2026. And both Pato and Christian Lundgaard finish on the podium at least one time in the first 3 races. And I think Pato and Lundgaard are going to be in contention this week. I think Pato O'Ward's going to be in contention to win at Phoenix. And Pato's bringing his A game down in Arlington. With everybody coming up, he's going to have so much family there. It's the closest race they have to his hometown.
It's also Mexico. A McLaren home race.
And it's a McLaren home race. That I would all, and I'm going to ask him this. So what do we have? Bullpen Friday morning. I'm going to ask him, look, you don't want to overlook any races. I get that. But the 2 circled the most on his calendar have to be Arlington and the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah. I like the Phoenix Pato prediction, by the way. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, the biggest thing with Pato is going to be how does he start the season? Because I think the story has been that he sucks at starting the season, which is why it was such a big deal when he won St. Pete after push to pass gate. So it's going to be him being a championship contender is you're going to know by the Indy 500 if he's there, right? The thing that I'm most excited to know from you two is does Christian Lundgaard win a race this year? Over under a win?
I told you yes last year, and I think I'm going to say no this year. And I'm probably going to be proven wrong right off the bat, but I don't think so. There's too many strong cars. And unless McLaren takes a huge step up that they didn't show in testing, no.
I remember us being, and I was kind of waving the flag on this a year ago. We talked about how Christian Lundgaard was going to be a championship contender, which, I guess you could say that he was in normal years, but he wasn't in the fact that Palou just had a dominating year. I will say this. I will say Christian Lundgaard will have a win, and it will come on a street course, which isn't really going out too much on a limb on the street course side of things. I get that, but
we handed Kirkwood 3 of the 5, so we gotta.
Yeah,
I could see a Markham for Lundgaard. And
you know what?
No, I'll say this. I'll say this. I'll change it. Let me change it. Lundgaard will be my pick to win the Indy Grand Prix.
I think he'll win. You said we would have said that last year. I think I actually probably picked him, and he was nowhere in that race. I think for me, Lundgaard's going to win Road America because I think that's the one last year that got away from him, right? And Thermal as well.
Yep.
And what we learned out of those two events is that he's really good when it's hot, when it's 90 plus degrees, stupid hot, big deg. That's
Washington D.C.
There we go.
Washington D.C. Christian Lundgaard, book it.
There was no reason.
What is this? Why are there A's in your last name?
He had an off week in Mid Ohio, but I think Road America he gets it done. I think he'll get a win.
Juncos Hollinger Racing. We kind of talked about it. David brought him up at the beginning of the show at Phoenix. Arenas VK joins the team. Stingray Robb in his second year in that seat with JHR. I am always, I was super impressed with what Arenas VK did last year. I'm super excited to see what Arenas VK can do this year, returning to Chevy. As you mentioned, David, that car with Connor Daly in it over the last couple of years has seen some really good runs. Milwaukee at the end of the 2024 season comes to mind. 500 last year, Gateway. Ovals, Arenas, I think, has taken a step. I have pretty big expectations for Arenas to be a top 12 championship contender, score a couple of podiums, and in the right situation, a Gateway, maybe win a race this year.
Yep. I think Juncos is one of those teams that could sneak up on us. I mean, we've talked to death Arenas and the expectations we have for him. But this is also the first time that Stingray Robb's had any consistency in his career. Showed a lot of pace at Sebring, which is a representation of a street course. What was Stingray's best performance last year? A street course at Long Beach. So, and Arenas and Stingray have worked together before. This is a team that actually has some chemistry. I think that, and to even expand on your point about the Indy 500, yes, Connor had a great run last year, but we forget Augustine Canapino looked great in 2024 in that car and didn't have the experience to show what it was capable of. So we know how good Arenas is going to be, no doubt about it. And I would even go, I think you're being conservative on top 12 in the championship. I think Arenas is top 10 in the championship for sure.
Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Wait, who's older, Kyle? You or Arenas? You guys about the same age?
It's Arenas. Arenas is older. I'm going to look it up. But yeah, he's, wow. Arenas is only a year older than me. Okay.
I think people forget that. I mean, Kyle, we know you're young, but Arenas has been in the damn sport since what, 2020?
2020.
2020, yeah. Arenas has the facial hair. He looks older in like a good way, right? Like, no, he's not like getting into his old age, but like he looks older than me and he's only a year. That's crazy. Just wow. Yeah. But I agree with you. I think he'll sneak up on us. And I think, especially at the Indy 500, I think will be a contender, which would be a nice return to form for Arenas. And hey, Stingray Robb got a top 10 last year, didn't he? Or was it 2 years ago? But yeah.
Let's go to Rahal, and I got something for you, Kyle. How about if you're willing to do this, I know you're babyface. You got to grow out a beard until a Rahal car finishes in the top 7 in a race.
No, I'm not doing that. Top 7, a Rahal car in the top 7. You know what? I could see Graham doing it. Honestly, but I'm shaving before.
You're ready to see Kyle's beard, and get ready to see Kyle with a beard coming up in the month of May, folks.
Yeah, that's a problem. Because like I could see Graham getting a top 10, but like top 7 is man. I have hope. You know, Gavin Ward joined the team this year. It just feels like another year, though.
I'll meet you at a top 8.
Maybe. Well, I'll think about it. We'll let you know in St. Pete.
I mean, you got a girlfriend now. You don't really got to worry about what you look like.
Yeah.
Just grow that thing out.
That's why Renus looks old. It's because he's married.
Wow. Renus is a year older than me. Sorry.
Tell him that.
Married.
Tell him that.
No, I will not tell him that. And not because I'm afraid of Renus. It's because I'm afraid of his other half.
Reminds me of the morning in Mid-Ohio last year. All right, let's discuss Rahal a little bit more. Mick Schumacher, Graham Rahal, Louis Foster heading into his second season. We've heard a lot of talk, boys. I'm going to be honest when it comes to Rahal. We've heard a lot of talk this offseason. We've hired this person. We've hired that person. We got new sponsors coming in. Mick Schumacher. Louis Foster's going to take that next step. Does it happen, or at the end of 2026, are we talking same old Team Rahal, couple nice wins, couple nice finishes, but at the end of the day, nowhere near in contention on a consistent basis?
While we're taking bets, is Mick Schumacher just never gonna have a livery? Is he just gonna be in the Honda all year? Like, are we don't just make that happen at this point? Like, what are we doing? Like, why is that car just driving around with a black car with a yellow stripe on the rear wing?
Put David Letterman's face on the side.
Oh, yeah, that's the old Oriole Servia trick. He's going to be the Marmon Wasp for the Indy 500. Good Lord. Welcome back 2016, everybody. Hey, you know what? Alexander Rossi's going to win the Indy 500. And because David Letterman's going to be on the side of Mick Schumacher's car. Actually,
never mind. You know they're going to drop light on there at some point. You know that they're going to drop light's going to be on there. They're going to announce like 6 races with drop light, and it's going to be a reverse scheme of what Louis Foster is running. Or the races that Louis runs, that the Sunda Tequila car, that's when we're going to see the drop light sponsorship on Mick's car.
Well, with that logic of it being, if Mick gets David Letterman on the side of his car, and we're going back to like 2015, that means Graham Rahal is going to win some races and be a championship contender. And
all right, that's the end of the show. Thanks for tuning in this week. Get ready to add to get on the grid rivals. So, my
opinion of Rahal is sell. That's I'm selling. I'm selling. Unfortunately, I haven't seen. I mean, it's. I think there's no team that wants a new car more than Rahal.
Yep.
I think at this point, dude, hit the reset button.
Here's the real funny meat and potatoes here, right? So obviously the logic in selling is, they brought in Gavin Ward. They have all these people. And I think Jay Fry has actually righted that ship a lot. I think they're actually going in the right direction. But we've heard every offseason of how many people they've added, all the changes, and then it ends up being the same thing every year. So I think that's why you sell. But the ingredients are there for it to flip around. It's just you can't believe them. Don't take that bet. Now, the real interesting meat and potatoes, like I said, is that Takuma Sato is one mistake away from winning the Indy 500 last year, because the beginning of that race, everybody forgets, first 50 laps, Sato started third and was dominant in a Rahal car. That was going to happen.
I was going to ask you guys this. More laps led in the 16 races outside of the month of May for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, or laps led in the month of May with the road course to start the season or to start the month and the Indianapolis 500?
Oof. Yeah, probably because I just don't see another race where a Rahal car is going to lead a significant amount of laps. I mean, when Lundgaard won in Toronto, did he lead the majority of that race?
I think he led late majority. I want to say 22, 23 laps maybe.
So even if they get a win, they're not dominating the race. So I'm going to say, probably their best chance to lead laps is Indy GP, where they have a setup, and then the Indy 500 with Sato.
And again, before Lundgaard won that race, he had been knocking on the door. So there were other laps led in that season.
Yeah. Well,
That seems
and look,
hard.
to me, if you want to prove to me that you're making shit happen and getting shit done, which is the famous quote, then give me something on an oval. I don't think this team has had a top 8 on an oval since Graham Rahal at Texas in maybe 2020, if not mistaken, because was Sato last year 9th at the 500? I forget where he ended up. So maybe it's outside of Sato. Obviously, he won the 500 in 2020, and Graham had a third place. But from that point on, I'm not sure they've had a top 5 on ovals.
Santino at the 500, 2021.
With Rahal, wasn't he 7th?
Yeah.
7th, yeah. So
Well,
I need a Rahal top 12 on an oval. I'm not asking for much. We need a Rahal top 10 on an oval for me to look at it and say, all right, things are moving in the right direction, and Kyle can shave his beard. Kyle, I'll do top 8 on road and streets. I'll give you top 12 on an oval.
Well, it ain't happening on an oval, I'll tell you that.
We're trying to get to the beer.
I might take you up on that,
beer.
but like if I did do that, like I'm shaving on Saturday and like Sunday morning of this weekend it starts. Like I'm not gonna shave the whole weekend of St. Pete.
Would you rather do no haircut?
Oh, I'd rather do no haircut, honestly, because my hair looks kind of good long, honestly. I just got a haircut today, and it's in its bad state. When it grows out like a month, it's going to look best, right? Like
you got a haircut today, no haircut until a top 8 on a road and street or a top 12 on an oval.
All right, I'll take that bet. Yep.
Okay. There we go. All right, the final team, I think, I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. Team Penske, the expectations to take a giant step from where they were last year. They always seem to bounce back. As you talked about earlier, David, you have high expectations for Scott McLaughlin. Joseph Newgarden heading into a contract season as well. And David Malukas gets Little Dave is now Big Dave, gets an opportunity in that 12 car to show what he can do. Let's start there, David. David Malukas, will we see it take a while for him to find consistency, or out of the gate are we going to see Malukas competing for top 6s?
He's going to be quick. I mean, he's going to be quick at Phoenix. No, let's make no doubts there. I think that, my prediction of Armstrong winning a race before Malukas is simply that I think Armstrong will win St. Pete and Malukas could possibly win Phoenix, right? I don't know if it'll happen that early, but I think that by the late season, I think Malukas probably will be in contention. From what I've seen in testing, Dave's there. So, I mean, unless he has a tremendous fallout in terms of like luck or talent, I think he's going to be all right. I think Penske made the right move at the right time. Joseph obviously is going to be motivated, as any driver is in a contract year. I think that's going to be one of the most interesting stories to follow throughout the season, is what happens with Joseph Newgarden throughout the season. And then Scott McLaughlin. I had high expectations for him last year. He kind of let me down a little bit, but I genuinely think that Scott has kind of, been the person that they've rebuilt the team around. There's a reason that Tim Cindric is on his pit box and not Joseph Newgarden's. So I think that I think we're in for a lot of Scotty Mac stuff this year.
Kyle?
I mean,
sorry.
Easy.
Well, I'll go with it. I think Malukas will win a race this year. I think this is a huge opportunity for David. As we mentioned, Penske always seems to bounce back. I would almost go, I don't know if it's going out of a limb, but I'll make a prediction to say all 3 Penskes wind up in victory circle this year. We obviously saw Will Power and Joseph Newgarden find victory at the end of last season. I think Joseph will be right back up there inside of the top 5 of the championship. I think McLaughlin's going to be right there as well. And I think David Malukas is going to help this team. I think all 3 win. I think Joseph will be the highest in the championship, followed by McLaughlin and Malukas. But I think we're talking like 2nd, 4th, and 6th, or 3rd, 5th, and 8th. So I think all 3 Penskes get back in the victory circle. But I still think, even though it is a contract year, Joseph is going to perform at a high level in 2026.
Nuke Shot Media, I also agree that McLaren should go after Joseph, and I've thought that for a long time.
Yeah.
But
yes,
I think that's like the big one of the big rumors. It's that or the Chevy factory team, right? Like, maybe if he is the Chevy
one of the
factory
things.
driver in 28, then maybe, yeah. But either way, big year for Joseph in a contract year. Penske's so weird, man, because like you want to have that faith because they have such a long-standing history of being the best, But after the last 2 seasons, it's almost like, well, are we starting to kind of expect them to struggle? Are we at that tipping point with them yet? The chat early on in this show was saying that Scott McLaughlin is due for a big year, and I completely agree with that. I mentioned the fact that I'm going to St. Pete for the first time since Scott McLaughlin won his first IndyCar race here in 2022. And the first time I ever went to St. Pete was his first IndyCar race. So if you believe in conspiracies or just, I guess, just odd things happening, I will be in attendance. And so Scott McLaughlin historically tends to do things when I go. So
does that mean we need to go to that California pizza kitchen after the race and run into Scott McLaughlin after he wins? Is that what we're...
Honestly, not a bad move.
There you go. Okay.
And Dave Malukas, I think I mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago. I mean, look, it's. I think the expectations are going to be really high, but I don't see him doing as much in the first half of the season. I think it's going to be June onwards is when he's going to show his true performance in that seat. But by watching the interviews that David posted and just what he's his presence on social media, he seems relaxed. He seems very happy and comfortable with his position. And I think it's telling sometimes when you see drivers get an opportunity like driver Penske, and you can almost already tell that they feel pressured or they feel, I guess, not comfortable. And it seems like little Dave is ready. He's excited.
Boys, 2026 Rookie of the Year. I'll go Kyle Collette.
Yeah, Kyle Collette.
I would agree, but I think Hauger's going to be a lot closer than we're giving him credit for. Hauger's developing pretty rapidly, I would say.
Before we wrap up, check out our Grid Rival Fantasy app contest this weekend. Just search Unverified on the Grid Rival app. I also put it in the chat here as well. Have some big things coming this season. We appreciate you spending your Tuesdays with us. Kyle, we'll start with you. We need a winner on the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida.
Ooh, I think it'll be... Give me Christian Lundgaard, because I love to pick him on this show, and I'm just going to get it off the bat now if he fails me. So we'll just get that out of the way. If he doesn't win, I won't pick him the rest of the season.
I already made my pick.
There is some rain in the forecast. He's going to go Armstrong. There is some rain in the forecast for Friday and Saturday, so we may not have a good look going into Sunday of who has the best race car. It'll be interesting to see.
Wet truck race, baby.
Oh my goodness!
We're going to be qualifying at the dark.
They're going to end up at the airplane hangar there, just off of turn 1 when they all dive in there. But be cool to see Dario in the Dollar Tree truck. James Hinchcliffe running this weekend. There's some other names. Kevin Lee's son,
Colin Brown.
Lee. Yeah, Jackson Lee is actually running this weekend. Colin Brown, as mentioned. This weekend, it's tough. I'm going to say it. I'm going to go, since you guys didn't. I'll go with Scotty McLaughlin to get the season started off with a victory. I thought last year it was going to be a big start for him. It wasn't. Give me McLaughlin to win on the streets of St. Petersburg.
We're all a bunch of hack frauds. Nobody picked Pillow. I'm sorry. Yeah. We're just setting ourselves up for it at this point. This is crazy.
This guy's so damn good. It's no longer fun to pick him.
I looked it up to start the week, and at the St. Petersburg Grand Prix, there's only ever been 2 multiple winners of the race.
Yeah.
It was Elio and Bourdais. Will Power and Newgarden as well. 3.
The average starting.
I think there's a few more, but we're on a streak now. Since 2020, we've had different winners every year since. And I don't know. I think it's just less likely of, a McLaughlin or a Pillow.
So Dixon,
than you think. Maybe I would say the easy pick, I think, is probably Dixon or Newgarden. Dixon's never won here, has he? No. Yeah, Dixon has never won. Yeah. Dixon has never won at St. Pete. But yeah, I think we're due for it being like a Lundgaard or. What I will say is, if it is Pillow that wins the race, if it is McLaughlin, the thing you always see at St. Pete that I would bet on is like a random pole sitter or at least top 3 starter. This is where remember Wickens won the pole in 18, followed up
Rosenquist.
next year with Rosenquist in 19.
Bourdain in a Foyt car was up there one year.
Right.
That was
I like starting the year, everybody's kind of at the same starting point. And I just qualifying will be interesting. And qualifying in the wet could be fun as well.
With
I actually
Goodyear
totally
rubber
forgot
everywhere.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the average starting position since 2020 for a winner at St. Pete is 2.9. 4 of the last 6 winners have came from the first 4 rows. And as you mentioned earlier, Kyle, if Pelot doesn't start, whatever it was last year, 8th or 10th, that number is a lot lower as well. So we appreciate everybody watching tonight as we get the season kick-started. Follow us on our social media channels as well. All 3 of us will be in beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida this weekend to cover the race for you. Look for David's post-race, post-practice, and post-qualifying wrap-ups. Boys, I'm going to be up in the stands cracking a Busch Light during that truck race. I'm gonna become a fan, watch them all get rolling. If you're there, be sure to say hello, and we'll see you next Tuesday for a recap of St. Pete, and I look forward to Phoenix here on Unverified.